Hi, this is Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this will be our chart lesson for Wednesday, April the 18th. And as you might expect, after yesterday's rally, we pretty much just had a trading range today. Still a pretty good trading day, um, but we had about, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had really 6 pretty good trades really before it got too late in the afternoon. Um, The last trade I marked was about 1 o'clock because it took almost till 2 to get up here, and then it was a little risky up here going long, and there really wasn't a short till this setup right here. If you saw this setup and took this, I actually should have marked that one. Let's just go ahead and mark it real quickly because that's definitely a good short right there. It meets all our criteria, and it's at a key entry point. So, but let's talk about the trades, and one of them here is special, so we'll talk about it in a minute. But the first trade of the day, and you can see, let me show you this before I show you anything else. I backed out, I backed in here just so you could see the whole day. Here's the start of the day, here's the end of the day, and you can see it was a clear trading range. But let me back out here where we can see a little more detail, and let's start. Let me show you this real quick. I'm always talking about how the trend lines rules still come into play even on short-term trends. And let me show you this. Here's your first trend of the day from the overnight. You had your break right there, and then a move to a new low on a retest, and then the trend reversed. And look what happened. You had this trend coming up through here. You finally got a break. You could have drawn this. You might have had it drawn like this, whatever. But that was pretty much the trend right there. And we had this break, and then a move to a new high, and then look what happened. The trend sold off again. And then we had this trend line kind of coming down through here. We got a break right here, and then a move to a new low and a reversal. And then we had this trend moving up here. This was real steep. This was a pretty good bounce. Um, and that's generally what happens when you get a when it becomes a known trading range. All the smart traders are looking to go long. And then we had a break of the trend line right here, and then look at there, another move to the high side, and then a sell-off, and then same thing all the way back down again. So the trend line rules work even on short-term trends. So sometimes you may not make a new high. What will happen a lot of times is you'll get this trend line break like right here, and then you'll come back, and you won't quite make a new high, but you'll test the underside of the trend line, and it'll hold, and then prices will sell off, kind of like it did here. It still made a new low off of this right here, um, but you notice how it just basically touched the trend line and then reversed. So that one's not a perfect example, but it's a good example. So, but anyway, let's go talk about the first trade. This was right after the open this morning. You had this failed break below a previous little double bottom here, and it just really created a broader double bottom. And then uh, you had a couple of failed breaks lower again. This really was kind of a small congestion area, and we broke out of it and failed and tested this low again and then reversed. So going long right here was a good trade. And this is actually a second entry long. You got your first move up, a pullback, and then you got a little two-legged swing in there, and then a second move up and a pullback. So it's really a type of a second entry long. One move up, pullback, second move up. Or actually, there's your new high, your pullback, your first attempt to go low, higher, and a pullback, and then your second attempt to go higher. I didn't describe that properly the first time, so hopefully that made more sense the second go around. But that's just a two-legged pullback right here that retested the new what's going to and created what's the new trend line. And it was the real key to this was this support area that we broke below and failed and then reversed out of. And you were looking for a leg at least equal to this one right here. And I can't remember, it's fairly close, I believe. This second one's a little bit longer probably, but you can see that's pretty much what we got. This leg was a little bit stronger, but all the same, it's a two-legged move right there, and then another two-legged correction. Pull back, first entry long, pull back, second entry long right there. So that was the best entry. And since this was coming off the trend line, if you entered here, okay, because it's also a breakout pullback long when it broke above this. But it's not the greatest setup. We were better to enter here, and you can see it was a fairly easy scalp, and then we had another couple legs back. But this just got real congested right here. So I didn't mark, and you don't want to go long above a doji because you see what happened. Prices quickly failed and came back down. So here's one leg, then a little two-leg correction, then a second leg. So that's still a two-legged pullback to the trend line, to the EMA. So going long right here was good, and that was an easy scalp. And then once again, here's your first real break of the trend line right here, first major break. And then first leg, first entry, pull back, second entry, and then off to a new high. So this trade was okay here too. If you took it, and it's also a failed break below all those lows right there. So this was kind of a trap. If you didn't take that one, I can understand why, because we did it did appear that we had a trend line break right here and then a move to a new high. But sometimes, sometimes all you're going to have right there is a prolonged correction. But since this is a short-term trend line, that's good enough to be a correction. Your two legs, and then off you are going to the high again. But this is really, I believe this trend line, if you played with it a little bit, you'd probably see if you put it right along the closes like that right there, that's probably more accurate. And you see that kind of fits the upper side too. So I believe that's your accurate trend line. So there's your first break, and then a second entry long. You're going to expect to move to a new high, and that's what we got. And then there was actually a possible short right here, but again, I didn't like the setup, so I didn't mark it because it wasn't clear yet if we were going to reverse out of this. Even though we had a short-term trend line, this could have come down here and tested this again and still gone higher. So that was the reason I didn't mark this. If you took this trade up here, nothing wrong with that, because it is 3 pushes to a new high, and that generally will get you a correction. And you can see we got one leg, two-legged correction there, and then second leg down. And this leg's shorter than this one, but that's because we got this strong support and the prices just couldn't get below it. So there was an entry up here. I didn't mark it. It's just kind of risky. You got a couple of overlapping bars. You would have had to wait to go short below this bar. Or you could have gone short below that doji because it is a high, but there's always a chance that we were going to go higher. Because the highs were up here, so we really turned a little early, and so it was a little risky just going short right there, so that's why I didn't mark it. But anyway, the next trade is right here, and this is actually, you could have actually gone long here and then short too, so that's why I marked this in green. This is a pretty bullish move right here, so you would think you might get a second leg. So this was really tricky. So here's your kind of a two-legged pullback to the EMA. So if you went, even if you went long right here, it probably was okay. But if you saw this trend line, there was the thought that, hey, we got to test this low. So that, and then by the time we got to this entry right here, which was really another second entry, or the second entry, you had too many overlapping bars. But if you took this first one right here, and even if you took this one, I think it would have worked. 1, 2, 3, 4. You would have still got your scalp even on this entry right here, I believe. No, it would have been a 4 tick. It would have been you would have missed it by 1 tick. So that's a good enough reason not to take that one. If you entered over here, this was probably okay. If you entered right here, because we got all those overlapping bars and a couple of dojis, it's really suspect. And if you were paying attention to your trend lines, you would have realized we didn't have a new low. We hadn't even really tested the trend line yet. So this was a failed second entry long that gave you a trap. So going short right here was so you can see there's two legs here, one leg up, pull back, second leg up. So this was a short. So there was a long over here and a short. There was an iffy long over here and a short right here. That's the way I would describe that. So that's the reason I marked that in green, because this was confusing. And the best thing to do, to be perfectly honest on this trade, is to stay out, because look where it's at. Remember what I'm always telling you about entering in the middle of a range, because this is the kind of things that happen. These are the sure bets at the top of the range and at the bottom of the range. Your resistance and your support. That's your key entry point. So that's a good reason to stay out of that trade, and even that trade right there, because if you were trying to get short, you got trapped in there. So this one was okay here because of the trend line and because of the EMA, and we were still trending up. But when you got in here, it was really kind of risky, because you're right in the middle of what we know now is by the time we turned up here and it turned down here, we now knew this was a range. And you never want to enter in the middle of a range, because prices can always double test one side or run quickly to the other. So there's a chance you get trapped in the middle, and that's what you don't want to happen. But here's another test of the low. It's a failed break. We had the break of the trend line, then two legs down to a new low. So this was a great long right here. And this was a quick one that ran pretty fast and pretty strong. So this was a really good entry right here. And it was just a basic entry, just taking the bounce off the strong support. And you can see that's where we had been bouncing all along. And you might have had this, you moved up to here by now. At one point it was there, but then after that I probably would have moved it to there. And if you're using that, you got a little bit of a trap there. But it's a great entry, bouncing right off strong support, which is what we like to do. And then this last one, same thing. It's just a little failed break above the last high up here, and strong resistance and an easy entry, and you could have ridden that all the way back down. So those two trades right there could have made you plenty of money. And that was pretty much it for the day. Of course, again, there's other entries in there that you could find that would probably fit our rules, but we're looking for the key entry points. And I actually got a couple of different questions today about trades that failed, and I believe this is one of the trades that that somebody questioned me on to ask me why it didn't work to the long side. And I think the other one was over here when this one failed. Or it couldn't have been that one, because that one worked, at least on my chart. One of these, maybe it was this one right here. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. But I got a couple of different questions about failed trades and why they failed. And they were really what it was. They were entering in these middle of these congestion type areas, or entering with the trend after the break to a new high. So I think that's the kind of thing that will get you if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind, and remember, we're trying to enter at the key entry points with trades that fit our rules. And if we do that, we're going to be a lot better off, and in the end, we're going to save ourselves a lot of headache and some lost money as well. But I'm going to wrap this one up. It's been a hectic week for me, and I've been late getting these out every day. A little earlier today, but still late than normal. I usually like to try to get these out in early afternoon so you can watch them in the evening. But I'll try to get back on track next week. But this is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.